You know who I had on the similar argument to USC, but the coach wasn't fired. Obviously, was not fired in week 2, but just you could see it slipping away really, really fast. I think the Florida Gators are going to have a bounce back.
Yep.
I think a simple change in leadership is going to produce a very different final win-loss mark. And then in the same way that we go back and we try to find snapshots, we try to find evidence of the players that are going to be there, what from last season suggests that there might be a different result. And I think it's that stretch where 2-point loss to Bama. You're right there with that 2-point conversion. 38-14, pretty decisive win against Tennessee. Then you take a really disappointing 7-point loss to Kentucky, a Kentucky team that went on to finish second in the SEC East. I think that in that early season stretch, we saw a team that with the returning players from that Gators team and a change of leadership, it ain't going to get blown out by South Carolina. Like it ain't going to be having these what's happening against Samford moments. Like all of the, not all, but many of the late season losses and late season frustrations, poor performance, poor play, I absolutely do associate with the end of the Dan Mullen tenure. And I don't think that when we look up at the end of the 2022 season, I don't think Florida's going to be sitting in 6th place in the SEC East with a 2-6 conference record. I think that they're right back up there battling for 2nd place with the likes of Kentucky and Tennessee.
Yeah, and a fun fact about Florida that kind of suggests it was its own worst enemy and beat itself a lot. In its 7 losses last year, it outgained its opponents by 196 yards. But it had a -7 turnover margin. So I think if they take better care of the football and maybe on the defensive side of the ball, they aren't as predictable. Like, I feel like you knew what Florida was going to do in every situation because they did the same thing in every situation all of the time. So I think that kind of change could help. So take better care of the football, be a little more unpredictable on defense. And I don't think they're going to be like beating Georgia and winning the SEC East, but I don't think they're going to be nearly as bad as they were last year.
A lot of it comes down to how big do you think some of these losses are that I'm about to read off, right? Like Jacob Copeland, who's gone. He was their 2nd leading receiver on the year. Gamble, the tight end, who was, I think, a solid player, like not a huge difference maker. Rick Wells, not a special player. Malik Davis, solid running back, pretty good receiving threat. Damian Pierce, was a good back from them. They do get Montreal Johnson, the transfer out of Louisiana there. Offensive line, they return a whole lot, and they lose Stuart Reese, and I think Gene Lance, but they return a bunch. They took some transfers there. Defensively, though, I do have some questions about this Florida team. They lose Zach Carter, they lose Valentino, they lose Newkirk. The latter 2 that I just mentioned were transfers in last year, and transfers that were pretty vital for that defense. Florida was not happy with its defensive tackle situation last year entering the year. That's why they went out and got those transfers, and those guys were pretty big helps. I mean, they combined to play almost 700 snaps on the year. So, to me, that's an issue. They also lose everybody at linebacker who had 200 or more snaps. Diabate, Tyron Hopper, Jeremiah Moon, Amari Burney, Chris Bogle are all off my sheet. Now, Britton Cox is back. He's listed as a backer, but he's kind of more of an edge guy for them. And they lose Kyrie Elam. And like I think Kyrie Elam is really, like, he could go 1st round.
He might be a 1st-round pick. Yep.
Like Kyrie Elam's a really good player and played hard on a bad team or on a team that was going nowhere fast second half of the year. So I don't know. Can the offense carry them? Can they? At a point in time last year, we were talking about AR5 as a potential like Heisman long shot. Like, do we take a shot on this kid because you could build the narrative of him winning it? Now, he didn't win it. He got hurt a little bit, and he had some real freshman moments. But I could see Chip really nailing this, but they're going to have to be better on offense.
I think it's AR-15, right? Because I remember seeing
that
trending one Saturday. I was like, oh, crap. I think it's EJ5, isn't he? Isn't Emory Tony 5?
Yes, yeah. Yes.
And then you've got Jack Miller coming in from the transfer side, so that could be an interesting quarterback battle that's taking place. I think Dan Mullen severely misplayed the culture. I think they clearly had a problem. I think it went back to the minute they lost the SEC championship game, even further than the 2-point loss this season. Because when he set a tone and they got smoked by Oklahoma in the bowl game, he was like, well, our season ended the championship game. And I've discussed this before on here. Then the next year, what do you think they thought their championship was? If you're not playing for the SEC championship anymore and you're out of the title hunt, players all threw in the towel, and then it becomes an exhibition season. So every week they're like, maybe we'll show up. And that's why they're in a dogfight with Samford in a shootout. And I think Billy Napier will come in and he's going to have a totally different mindset. And I think it is one where motivation matters in college. Like NFL, it's on you. It's on, and maybe that's why Dan Mullen wants to get to the NFL. I don't have to expend energy to try to get my players fired up and ready for practice and ready to go. It's if you don't, you get cut, you don't make money. Now, I think Napier comes in with a lot more of a mindset of, hey, every week we got to show up, put in the work. But I do think, so I think like those, like the Samford game, I don't think that's going to happen. Like you'll take control a lot of these games earlier and just be more prepared to play on a week in, week out basis. So I think he'll nip that right in the bud. But I think it'll be interesting. The quarterback battle to me is going to be fascinating with which guy ends up being the starter. But clearly the talent is there. So we'll see.
Was it a backflip? Anthony Richardson?
Or was it the dance party?
Dance party at the hotel, or attempting to do a backflip outside of the stadium.
They're going to have to give him like a person, like a quarterback coach, like GA that just hangs with him to make sure he's not dancing or doing backflips. Like just say, take it easy.